You're listening to Mom and Doc Talk, where we talk all things healing pans and pandas with an emphasis on homeopathy. Hi, and welcome back to this second to last, the penultimate episode of season 2 of Mom and Doc Talk. We have a guest that we've been trying to get on with us for basically since the beginning that we've done the podcast, and he finally agreed. So we're bringing him here to you guys as a special treat for the second to last episode of the season. So warm welcome to Jody's husband, Billy Putnicki. I'm so happy that you finally agreed to join us for the podcast, Billy.
Well, thanks for having me. As you know, it's a little out of my wheelhouse
Yeah.
and not in my comfort zone, but I'm happy to be here. So thank you.
Yeah.
So yesterday afternoon, Billy told me, I guess I better write something down for my bio. And he's like, but I don't know anything to write because I do a couple of things and that's it. So I went ahead and wrote his bio for him. So a little about Billy. He's worked for the fire department of one of the largest cities in Texas for almost 24 years, with 19 of those as a paramedic. Early in his career, Billy climbed the ranks to his current position as EMS shift commander, which he's been at for 13 years. He also works on the Emergency Medical Task Force that responds to large events that require extra medical assistance and command. If you were to ask any of his medic officers what Billy's like, they would all tell you that he's hardworking, loyal, highly intelligent, an excellent leader and commander, and most importantly, a good friend. Billy is husband to an amazing wife and has 3 kids. That is his sentence that he wrote. His favorite thing in the world to do is spend time with his kids. If you were to ask his kids what Billy is like, the very first thing they would say is that he's lots of fun. His other hobbies include exercising, being outdoors, and pretty much any activity that stimulates him mentally and physically. If you can't find Billy at work or in the gym, he's likely running kids to and from their many activities, helping out around the house, and making sure that I am supported so I have the time and capacity to support those of you who are still fighting to get your babies back. Like many people who go through PANS and come out the other side, Billy would have just as soon walk away from the PANS world because staying is hard and it pulls you back through the trauma. But by virtue of me, he's still here. He didn't choose to stay, yet every day he shows up and does the most so I can stay in the fight with you guys.
Well, right there says a lot, and so Billy, I know that you are probably not aware because you're on the sidelines and you get a little bit of information and stuff from Jody, but when you came and did a Mom and Doc Talk with us before we had the podcast, when you were just doing a live video in our Facebook group, it has gotten so much really positive feedback and been so helpful, which is why I've been dying to get you back to talk to us. Because you come from so many different perspectives for people who might have a hard time managing all of the things about pans and pandas, all of the things that go into it with, the impacts on relationships, on the family, like the conventional medical perspective versus the other treatments that are often needed for pans, pandas, homeopathy included. And it's just, you got a perspective that is really needed in this community and not shared very often. So I'm really grateful that you were willing to step back in and join Jody in her fight, even if it's just for a minute to continue.
Yeah, thanks. And that intro was way better than I could have done. So, and probably way more justice than I deserve. But, but thanks. Yeah, I have not gone back and listened to our first one.
Yeah.
It's one of those places like, it's hard to talk about sometimes. And so, because when I go back and talk about it, a lot of times I really immerse myself into how it was instead of just talking about it. And so sometimes when you immerse yourself into that, you really get deep into the past and all those memories and stuff start flooding you. And sometimes it becomes a little emotional. So hopefully I can channel that a little bit better and not get so, emotional about some of the stuff.
You know what, Billy, though, I think that there's some people who need to hear it. And I can't tell you how many times we have heard the moments that Jody and I feel like the most like, oh, that felt real hard or that felt really vulnerable, that has had the biggest impact for the most people because it helps people to see that they're not alone. And you know, I mean, we're going way off the plan of the agenda already, but like that I want to acknowledge up front that like we have an epidemic of loneliness for everybody right now. We don't connect in really authentic ways in the same ways that we used to, right? For lots and lots and lots of reasons. Men especially have an epidemic of loneliness. And then you add in PANS and PANDAS, which makes everybody substantially lonelier because it's misunderstood. You become trapped because of the things that you're trying to help your kids through. And some of their symptoms truly keep you stuck in your house. And so it becomes even more lonely and isolating. So honestly, Billy, I hope you cry. Like, I hope we can make you cry because there's a man out there listening to this episode who needs to hear another man feeling the stuff that he's feeling and feel
Yeah.
okay about the stuff that he's feeling, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, there's nothing easy about it. So
yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Hard
So what
stuff.
would you have said about yourself if Jody weren't to say all those wonderful things? Tell us about yourself in your own words.
Oh, man, for me, I go to work, I come home.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's work and family. Family's pretty much everything to me. So that part, I mean, I get. But as far as I don't know, my bio was like, well, fire department. Okay, that's before that. It was sports, baseball. So most time when people associate me, it's either with baseball or it's with fire department. Um, you know, and I think that's all great. It's stuff, but it doesn't really define me. I want to be defined as like what she mentioned as, you know, more of a family man first, because that's the other stuff's what I do. It doesn't really define me. It's just what I do. So for me, family, taking care of my kids, my wife, that's what I want to be. That's how I would best describe myself. I go to work, come home, and it's kind of like family, rest, and repeat. And I'm kind of a homebody, so I
All
don't have a whole lot to share about myself, you know,
right.
other
Fair
than
enough.
that. Yeah.
That works. Billy, what do you recall about how pans first showed up in your life, our life?
Um, what do I recall? I was just, it was confusion, I think. And if I'm answering the questions wrong, just kind of steer me back in. But I think some of it was just, I didn't understand. I think it was just confusion. You know, you see things, but a lot of it was tricky because I worked 24-hour shifts and I was gone a lot when the stuff was happening. Um, and so I didn't really see it initially. And then I would see some things and then I'd be like, okay. And then she would tell me more things, but then I wouldn't see it. She was very Avery would was withdrawn from me. I'd come home. She may go hide in her closet if I went and looked for her or something. So at first, it was just being a lot of it was just confusion for me, trying to understand what was happening and what was going on, and trying to put the pieces together because I didn't understand what exactly was happening.
It was something more of like you didn't necessarily notice it. It was more that it was brought to your attention. Like little things would happen, but you were like, oh, okay, whatever. It's gonna pass.
Yeah, so I didn't enjoy. Correct me if I'm wrong. Some of the outburst or the some of those issues I thought was like okay, but when I really started, I guess, honing in on it more so was with ticks, and then noticing when she would do certain schoolwork and write stuff, she started writing letters and numbers backwards. Not all of them, just some of them. And that to me, I was like, okay, it's got to be something neuro, just for that reason. Um, but I didn't know what. But that's how then it started kind of showing more and more and more and more with the ticks and other stuff. But it seemed to almost happen overnight from my perspective. Uh, Jody may look back and say it was a slow progression. It just got worse and worse. But for me, it seemed to happen very quickly.
Anything you want to add to that, Jody?
It was a slow progression for me. And I think that once we got to that, what you were thinking was neurological stuff was when you were like, boom, this is all here. And all of a sudden the behaviors and all of the other things all kind of fit into the whole package and it was one big thing. So that was like your moment where it was like all there and in front of you. And you're like, oh, okay, this is something really bad and really awful. Um,
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we're kind of already dancing around this, but like what we see that a lot of kids will be able to mask more in front of one parent versus another. And it sounds like that is part of what you have, like the complicating thing of you also were gone a lot, or not necessarily a lot, but you were gone for longer periods of time. But for the same, on the same token though, like because your schedule is normally like one on, two or three off, right? Like 24 on,
Hmm.
48, 72, something like that.
Now it's 24/72. Hmm.
Okay. So you also had potentially an advantage that some parents who work outside of the home don't have, that you had longer stretches at home too. You were gone for a full 24 hours, but then you were back for longer periods too. Um, so I'm just curious if there was masking that happened where, like, basically one parent sees more because they're like a quote unquote safe parent, versus things being more like held in check versus for the other, and like just how that showed up in your family. So this question is really for both of you, honestly.
For me, I think it's both. I think so. Even on a 24/72 schedule, I still had side jobs. Whether I
Hmm.
would do like concrete curbing work or landscape work, I was doing other stuff.
Okay.
So I wasn't necessarily home for 72. I was doing other things. And then I think a lot of it was masking. I think it was maybe I don't want to say she put on a different face or a different front, but I don't, because Jody would tell me stuff, and initially I'll be like, I'll kind of get a little frustrated because I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, none of this is coming to me. I'm not seeing any of this. I don't even know what you're talking about. And so that caused a little bit of, you know, conflict, I guess. But I think she did mask quite a bit of it around me for whatever reason.
Hmm.
I don't know, Joe. What do you think?
Cause you're fun dad. And when you come home, it's everything. I think with the girls, they relax and they're like, oh, okay, they can have fun around you. And so there was a sense of Avery being more relaxed, but then also, you know, I think she was trying to be more put together for you too. And then we were talking about this last night, and I was like, you know what? I was like, I think I was managing harder when you were home. Like I was trying to stay in front of things. Like if I knew something was going to trigger something, or like the, as Pan's moms, there's a million, and dads as well, there's a million different things that we can do to stop the progression of a rage, or at least we can try and do, or we can stay in front of things and manage. And I think I managed more when Billy was home. And so it was a combination of both Avery masking and me managing, and then her just wanting to have fun with him while he was home. And
Yeah.
I think all of those things contributed, but it took a while. Like I felt like, the quote, Pans is the ultimate gaslighter. Like I felt like I was questioning myself a lot because Avery would do the things and then I would tell Billy, and then he would be there for 2 days straight and the thing wouldn't happen. And I'm
Didn't
like,
happen.
am I crazy? Like, am I making this up? Am I crazy? But eventually, as she got worse, it all just kind of unloaded. And then
Yeah.
he was seeing all of it.
Yeah. So I have two thoughts here that you guys can pick up and run if either of them pick up for you. Okay. So the first one is that when you're having this difference of what you see with your kids, especially when something is like behavioral, it can lead to a lot of differences or like challenges within navigating your own relationship. I've heard that from lots and lots of parents where like one parent sees more and the other sees less, and they just can't seem to get on the same page and support each other, and it can lead to some conflict. And then the second thing that really comes to mind is just even in a non-PANS family situation. I have one child and one husband. My child doesn't have PANS. I'm recovered from PANS. And I will tell you that when it's just me and my daughter, it's easier because I'm managing one relationship. When my husband comes into the picture, I'm managing my relationship with her, my relationship with him, his relationship with her that I try to get nosy and be a busybody about to try and help support, and then the relationship of all three of us together. And it is freaking exhausting. And I just wanted to acknowledge that that's even harder if you're dealing with trying to help manage a child who's got behavioral challenges because of inflammation, and trying to help support and make things as good and easy as possible. So I don't know if either of those speak to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, to me, for sure. I think life, just in general, daily can be stressful, can have, there can be anxiety, um, and just daily living. And then you add something like this to the mix,
Mm-hmm.
and then that stress and anxiety goes up tenfold. And it takes a toll, I think, on any relationship,
Yeah.
um, with your kids, with your spouse, with whoever you're going through it with. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was. Yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying. It's a lot to manage, and then we've touched on it before. So it's sometimes you get to a point, like for me, I'll speak for myself. You start getting scared and worried and fearful about what is happening. And a lot of times that for me would manifest itself as anger. And
Mm-hmm.
so that really doesn't help. That just increases the stress and the conflict and stuff. So I'm speaking for myself,
Yeah.
and I know that didn't help the case. And a lot of times when I will get concerned for my kids or scared or worried about them, sometimes it comes off as anger, and that probably didn't help the mix either or add to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the stress.
And you're not alone. So many people, um, I really don't think there's very many people who have anger as like a primary emotion. I think anger is predominantly a secondary emotion. I think there's certain instances where anger is just anger and there's nothing else underneath it. But for most people, I think anger is sadness and fear. And it comes out that way because we're angry about the thing that we're fearful that we're trying to regain control. And so many people, it comes out as anger. That really what's happening underneath is you're just kind of like dying inside and so afraid of what's happening to your family, and like how can you, and like confidence issues can come on in there too, like how am I going to handle this, how am I going to take care of this little human, how am I going to take care of my family when if all of these things are happening, like do I even have what it takes, um and what do you do with those feelings, especially if you don't have a lot of experience navigating emotions, which so many of us don't.
Yeah, it's tough. And I'm a very type A personality,
Mhm.
and you know, when you don't feel like you're in control of something or can't control what's going on,
Mhm.
that makes it even harder.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that's a real challenge.
Was Billy the first one to bring up control in this episode, or was it me? I don't know, but it comes up every episode about control.
Uh,
It was really this. I think
yeah,
you were asking about kind of how it divides you and like what it's like as things are starting to unfold. And I think for us, one of the toughest things was um, trying to figure out whether we were dealing with disciplinary issues, like something we should be disciplining, or if something else was going on. And that's where we were divided. And I think I just came to an understanding a little bit before Billy, but I think that the way, and I say this in the group quite frequently, Billy, is where we are now. I have so much grace for how you experience PANS, because I understand now that the way men experience PANS is so very different because we just have different roles. And one of the things we butted heads on a lot was, do we need to discipline her? Because like these rages are nuts. And as the primary disciplinarian in our home, your experience of that was very different, because it's like, wait, shouldn't I be correcting her? Shouldn't I be like, at what point can we, is it too much to give her grace? So there was a lot of like at that time, and it was really stretching us a lot. So it's hard. So Billy, what was your experience as a father seeing Pans unfold with Avery?
my experience. Um, yeah, so going back to what I touched on a little bit about my personality type, um, you know, I view myself as like, well, I don't know, a fixer, helper, provider, protector. And when you're watching your child go through this and there's like nothing you can do, or you feel like I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that, and you can't fix it, that's really hard, uh, because you're watching her or he or whomever suffer, and you feel helpless, like there's nothing you can do about it. So if you're fly on a wall, you're probably seeing me getting very frustrated, very angry, just annoyed. Um, but but deep down, probably scared. I mean,
Mhm.
is this what's going to happen to her for the rest? Is this what it looks like for her for the rest of her life? Not so much me, but just her. Just worried about her, and what can I do to make her better, or what can I do to make her feel better? That's what I was. That's all I wanted to do. That's all I cared about,
Yeah.
and that's hard when you keep hitting dead ends or whatever. But anyhow,
So it sounds like the thing about PANS that was really hardest on you was the feeling of helplessness.
yeah. I mean, I'd never heard of it before. I mean, I don't. Yeah, I didn't know what it was. I just knew something was wrong.
Mhm.
And I figured, oh, we'll go somewhere. Someone will take a look at her or run a test or draw blood or do something. And it's like, oh, this is what is wrong. This is what we do. And then, okay, we get our girl back. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, as you know now, that's not how it ended. That's not how it, I was way wrong with that.
Right.
But yeah, just a feeling of being helpless and not being able to protect her or to help her. Yeah, that
Mhm.
was super hard, like
Mhm.
really hard.
Not that it's any less difficult for anyone, but I think with your background, your job literally revolves around fixing people fastly. And your job is in that kind of mainstream medical medicine world where there's you give a thing and something gets better. And so you're used to being able to do that and and perform that really well. And so when it came to Avery, and there wasn't that the fix that you always knew usually worked. None of those fixes worked for Avery. It brought you to your knees.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I'd agree with that. Yeah.
So I'm just curious, for the parents who are in it right now, they're just figuring out like where you guys were 10 years ago, right? Like you're just figuring out what's going on with my kid. If you don't remember this, that's fine, because as you said, like you've mostly moved on from this. Um, what about the day to day? Like you're talking about big picture. It was hard because you were worried about your daughter and it was hard because you couldn't fix it and you couldn't control things and you felt helpless. That's really all important. But do you remember anything about the day to day?
Well, I mean, I think just you're in a house and we didn't really do much. We didn't really go anywhere. We didn't really do anything. And there was just chaos all day, every day. The only break was maybe when you slept or when I went to work. Um, but then Jody never got a break. But I think that just it was just like Groundhog Day every single day,
Mhm.
and just trying to figure out day to day how to manage it or what how to fix it. I guess that's and you just kind of feel like you're stuck in a cycle. You're just
Mhm.
waiting for it to get better, magically or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if that
So
helps or
feeling,
answers you, but
yeah, for sure. So let's take where you went from like you were feeling you like you didn't do much of anything, right? You were just kind of stuck. How did that affect your connection with each other, with your larger family? How did it affect your parenting, your connection to your community?
ooh, I think we've touched on some of these. But as far as our relationship, I mean, our relationship, I mean, maybe she'll agree or disagree, was not horrible before, but then you introduce this into it and it just brings a whole another level of stress and anxiety and frustration. It definitely, I don't know, Joe. I mean, I think it separated us a little bit, especially initially, kind of pulled us apart. A little differencing of opinions on certain things, just the stress of it. Um, as far as friends or community, I'm kind of a private person, and I have a close circle of friends. Um, and on occasion, it would come up, or with my dad or my brothers that I'm really close with, it would come up, and they only know what they know. I mean, they were trying to be supportive, but the answer is I would always leave the conversation like, okay, they don't get it, and it would frustrate me.
Mhm.
So then I just quit talking about it. Now I can look back and say, well, they didn't get it because they only know what they know. They never walked it. They didn't live it. They're doing the best they can. But back at the time, it just was like, oh, okay. So I quit. I just quit talking about it to anybody. And then, as far as like you said, the discipline part, how with my parenting, it's like, well, do I discipline this? You know, I want respect. You know, this and that. Not respect to me, just in general, but be respectful. You know, do this, short, whatever it may be. And Jody was like on the different side of that. Well, you know, we got to give her some grace, and then so that caused some friction. My parenting definitely had to change. I definitely had to look at it from a different perspective of not so much authoritarian versus laissez-faire, but I'd have to give her more, learn to give more grace to her, and more have more understanding of something that I just not did not understand at all. It didn't make sense to me at all. So for initially, I kept the same path and pattern of kind of a hard nosed, hard ass parenting approach, and it just didn't work. And that caused frustrations with her and I, and arguments between us, and so it wasn't a fun house to be in. Let's just, and that we never left. It was like the same house, and just, you know, just wasn't fun.
I'm curious what it was that made you get to the point that you were willing to shift any of your parenting versus just doubling down.
I think just the sorrow and sadness I felt. I think I don't know, other than the fact it's like I felt so bad for her and so sad that I think I just was like, nah, you know,
Yeah.
something's wrong, and she can't control it.
Yeah.
It's out of her control. This is not her voluntarily being this way. It's she can't help it.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how long that took me. I'm a slow learner, so probably longer than most, but eventually I got there. But it took me a while to get there. And I think it was probably just due to like not quitting or giving up, but just feeling so bad for her that I couldn't, you know, I didn't want to
I
get
think
angry with her.
I think you had multiple shifts. Like I remember one specific day, like I can see exactly what was happening in our house. And I was standing in the kitchen, you were in the dining room, and Avery walked out of the kitchen. And it's when she had that thing where she was kicking her leg out every time she
To the
would get
side.
up. And you were like, and like that was like one of your moments where you shift and sort of softened. And then, we would go back into the everything's crazy and chaotic in the house. And there was just a couple of other times like that where it was like there was just a shift in you that changed how you were responding to things. And really, I kind of think if you were a fly on the wall in our home, we were both so shocked. Every day, I felt like I was in a state of shock. I could not believe what was happening. I remember one night laying in bed talking about how there's just no possible way that what's happening could be happening. Like, there's no way this can happen to people. Like, what was happening with Avery was so extreme and so out of control. And I think that we both sort of walled off. We walled off to a lot. We walled off to our family because it was just easier that way. We walled off to community, and we built even bigger walls between each other.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what it looked like. We were like zombies, like walking around trying to figure out what to do, and even how, like, we were in the middle of just completely losing ourselves and feeling like we were losing our families. And it was it was just devastation and stunned all the time.
And I don't think we even had time for each other. I think
Mm-mm.
all our focus was just how do we fix her? Where can we take her? What do we do for her? That you just
Mhm.
kind of lose that connection. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like you're living under the same roof, but you're strangers. I mean, just trying to accomplish one thing, and that's what you get focused on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
you just sort of dropped a pretty big thing a little while back that I want to, it made me tear up, and I was supposed to be making you cry, and you made it the other way around.
I'm
It
holding them
was
back.
it was your sadness, your sorrow and your sadness that, like, you had to get to that place to have the shift. And like I just I hope somebody hears that and they recognize that that might be brewing in themselves, and that they can get to a place where they can give everybody a little bit more grace earlier, so you don't have to get to like the same level of like, Jody, your word devastation and sorrow and sadness before you can just ease into things a little bit more. This thing that nobody can control.
Yeah, because that's the one thing that I saw in Billy, which not surprised me, but was it was overwhelming to me because this is a solid, strong man. Um, and Pans brought you, Billy, to absolute rock bottom, like a rock bottom I could have
100%. Oh yeah.
never imagined you being at. And that rock bottom is where you found your softness and you found your grace and you found your and it was like rock bottom, and then ever since then you've just been keep on stepping your way back up.
Well, rock bottom is where I found homeopathy too,
Yeah.
It's true.
though.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Before we talk about
Yeah.
homeopathy, let's talk about like all the doctor's visits and all the functional medicine approach and all of that stuff that we did with Avery. What did you think about all of that?
Like I said, well, not like I said, initially I just figured we're going to go somewhere and they're going to tell us what's wrong and we're going to get Avery back. And, but it felt like we hit one dead end after another. No matter where we went, um, well, it's behavioral, it's autism. She needs to be on psychiatric medications to, like, what? Like, and we just never got anywhere. And correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I think we went to place after place after place, and one dead end, one dead end, one dead end. And then I think you had done the homework. Jody, you did the homework and found what you thought it would be, when no other doctor, no place we went to even brought that up. And that's when I think was it the Cunningham panel? Am I right with that or no? That we did?
Yeah.
Or something, anyhow. But it was super frustrating, um, super expensive, which you're already talking about stress, and then you add that into the mix,
Yeah.
the financial piece. Um, yeah, I mean that adds a whole another layer of stress to an already stressful situation. Um, a lot of the heavy lifting on those for the doctor's offices you did. A lot of them I was at work, so you are more, like I said, with those. And the ones I went to were just super frustrating. Um, but but I always thought, okay, well maybe this is the day. Maybe this is the time where we get an answer, or maybe this is a day where this works or that works. And so you kind of get that hope, and then it would just go right back down, and then you go up, and then you go down. It was just like very cyclical and just but it was like one dead end after another.
Yeah. I think we both did heavy lifting though, because while I was doing that, you were solely responsible financially. And it was an enormous financial drain on us going through mainstream and functional
Mm-hmm.
medicine. It was a lot of money, and that was all you. So
Well, yeah. Anyhow, I had a couple selfish moments, and we drained our entire savings account for treatment. So I mean, but I do it over again.
Yeah. All right. So rock bottom is where you found
Hmm.
homeopathy, or where you were at your rock bottom. Jody found homeopathy. What did you think about it when she brought it to you?
Well, it was a hard no, like hard no for I don't know how many times. Maybe she counted. I quit counting. But we got to so many. Going back to the other question, so many dead ends, financially drained, that I was just like, finally, I don't know how many times she asked me, but finally I said, okay, whatever. I was literally at rock bottom, had no idea what else to do, where to go. And when she brought it up, finally, I don't know, maybe the 10th time, who knows? I said, all right, I'll give you a little bit of rope. We got a couple $100 left or whatever it was we got left. Go for it. What do we got to lose? I didn't go that route until it was, shoot, I don't know how long it took me to get there. It took me a very long time to get there. Yeah.
I think our very last conversation that we had about it, I asked you if you trusted me and if you trusted the decisions that I was making, like that I would make the best decisions with Avery. And you're like, okay, yes. And that was you at that point, you were like, okay, let's go. And then you were,
Yeah, it took me a long time to get there.
yeah.
You know, glad I got there, but it just took me a very, very, very long time.
Yeah. And also, I
Yeah.
was doing a terrible job explaining homeopathy because I had no idea what it was. And I was skeptic at that point too. So you were getting it really, like I was trying to summarize what Kyle told me in our consultation because I did it with Kyle back then. And I was trying to explain to you what Kyle explained to me, and I butchered all of it. So
Well, let's be honest. Kyle is also not a homeopath, so he probably didn't do the best job either. Like,
Well, you know, we've talked obviously in the past, Dr. Barrow, about certain things, and for me, I was asked 100 questions, but I was like, okay, so I know I give this medication because it does this.
mhm,
I know I give this medication because reacts to this, it binds to this receptor, which causes this. So, what is all this doing?
right.
And I couldn't get a black and white answer from her,
Yeah.
and it was super frustrating. But and I was like, what about this? She's like, well, and she tried to explain it to me. And I was like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Hmm.
And she's like, I know, I'm trying to. And she was doing the best she could because this was a long time ago. But it was just hard for me not to have
Yeah.
okay, I know you were giving this to her this big, but what if we keep giving this to her over and over and over? Does it build on itself? Is it build on itself? Is it
Mhm.
going to cause issues? And then I had to get all these other answers. Of course, I listen to people on your podcast also who've talked about it. Of course, I talked to you about it. And I was, and then as Jody's gotten way more knowledgeable with throughout the years, and I understand it, but I don't understand it, and I'm 100% okay with that now,
Yeah.
where I wasn't okay with that
Yeah.
X amount of years ago.
You just had the
So,
fight knocked out of you from all of the other things. So it was
mhm.
literally you had no fight left to give. So it was like TKO is what
Yes,
accepting homeopathy.
yeah, that's a much more polite way of saying it than I would say it, but yes,
Okay.
yes,
So, Billy, tell us
yeah.
about the first 6 months of Avery's homeopathy journey and what that was like for you.
Um, like a lot, like up and down. Like I would see, I didn't understand, and I didn't understand how things worked. And some days would be good, and other days would be horrible, and
Mhm.
it'd be good, and it'd be horrible. And I'm like, well, what are we doing here? Like, I thought we gave her this, and she's gonna be fine. No, it doesn't really work that way. I'm like, well, what are we doing? Like, it was just this, and I didn't, and then finally Jody got to a point. I don't know how long it took you, or I don't remember this, but it was like, okay, I'm gonna give her this, and this is what's gonna happen. And the more she did that, the more I started seeing that what she was saying was happening. Does that make
Mhm.
sense? So
Mhm.
I could understand it, but I didn't understand the mechanism behind it, but I understood what she was telling me, and I just started seeing the change. But the first 6 months were like, it was good days, bad days. I learned to really enjoy the good days
Mhm.
uh, because there were still bad days. Like it was, but there was good days in there, and there's days I felt like I had Avery back. So
Yeah.
yeah, but it was hard.
Sometimes if you're not careful, the good days, if we hold on too tightly to the good days, we can make the bad days feel worse than they felt
Hmm.
before you had any good days. And so it's like you hold on loosely, right? Where you want more of the good days, but you have a loose grasp on them so that you can not feel so bad when the bad days do inevitably happen.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so hard no, had to get the fight knocked out of you before you were willing to say yes. Rough start with lots of ups and downs as Jody was learning more about homeopathy and learning more about what to expect so she could tell you what to expect. And you starting to like lean in and see a little bit more. I'm curious what finally changed your mind about homeopathy. Was it like a moment where the switch flipped, or was it like a slow process to finally come to the conclusion that it was in fact working?
It was definitely not in my, how I recall it and remember it, wasn't a switch. I think it was just over time, listening to her saying this was going to happen, this happened, and this was going to happen, this happening, and just kind of trusting the process. Like I said, even I don't understand it completely, I just saw her getting better and getting better and getting better, and the dosing kind of got a little further away, and then they would change, and then something. So homeopathy to me is very hard to explain to somebody. That's probably one reason why I don't talk about it, because I can't. I'm not a subject matter expert in it, and I can't just boom 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 boom. So it's hard for me to say ABC, even though I saw her getting better. I didn't know why. I didn't understand the mechanism behind it. I just saw her getting better, and we got to a place where I was like, "Oh man, like this is working," because I don't know how, I don't know why, but I'm super thankful, and because I started seeing her again. I don't know if that is that making any is that
Yeah.
um so no, it was a period, it was over a period of time for
You're
me.
just a person who needs to get punched several times before you're willing to make a shift, is what happened. So like you said, you're a slow learner. You're not a slow learner. You're just real stubborn and you can take a punch.
Well, I am stubborn. And let's just say I'm the type of guy that Googles and reviews vacuums for 6 months before I buy one.
Right.
So it takes me a long time to get to where, all right, this
Right.
is what I want. And so it took me a while to get there,
Yeah.
to see it. And but mostly because I just didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And I had this hang up of having, I don't want to call it a hang up. I had a need of having to understand it for it to make sense to me. And I
Yeah.
have a
Well,
little
and
better
you,
understanding now,
yeah.
but I didn't know anything about it all back then. I never heard of it. I didn't know anything about it,
Yeah.
homeopathy.
Well,
So
and PANDAS is so it fluctuates too. So it's pretty easy to say, well, how do you know this isn't just, a normal fluctuation when things are better? It's like you have to, I get it. Like I also I was a skeptic and am still have a little bit of the skeptic in my heart too, where like I need to see the pattern again and again and again that I can say, yeah, I do this one thing, nothing else changes, and things change because of this one thing that was
mm-hmm.
different, that was added to this particular environment. And so with enough repetition of that, then you're like, okay, you can't deny that this one thing is the only thing that's been changing, and things are heading in the right direction. And it's again and again and again. And like you said, Jody got to the place that she understood it. She could tell you what was going to happen with relative predictability, and it would happen. And that can give more confidence, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, we got to a point where, I mean, Jody probably remembers this. Dr. Pro, you probably remember it, where we actually got to go out to eat.
Mm-hmm.
We went to a restaurant, and that was a huge feat. Like we went ate. That's a big deal. Or we went on a little vacation. It's like that was a huge thing. Like stuff that you took for granted before. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, we're going to be able to do this again. So when you see
Yeah.
stuff like that, there may be little milestones for people, but for us, they were huge,
Yeah.
huge milestones for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, Billy, that we all come to it that way because I came to it that way too. I was just quieter about it. I remember having conversations as Avery was healing over and over again. We're like, yes, this is amazing. And then we're like, holy cow, this isn't working. Like, what the heck is Dr. Barr doing now? Like, why can't she just do the
Jen, Dr. Barr, I never said that.
you
I never said that. That was all Jody.
we no we you're lying.
Okay,
We
no,
were we're
maybe a
all
little.
skeptics. We're all skeptics. And one thing that I feel like kind of shifted you, Billy, is I think you had a lot of fear because there was things about homeopathy that you weren't sure about. And I remember at one point telling you in a follow-up appointment that Billy had a couple of extra questions. So if we could leave some time. And you guys got on the phone with each other and you asked your questions that were concerning you. And hearing them from Dr. Barr just hit you a little differently than hearing them from me. And so to me, that conversation was hugely beneficial. And it sort of, I think, allowed you to release the fear you had of, any long-term impacts homeopathy could have or anything. It was just having a quick conversation and being able to ask some questions. And then eventually, like you were saying, things stretched out and just started to get better and better. And then, there was still the last hurrah, Billy, which is when Avery had the dental work and she got really, really bad all over again. Like, we're just in that post-traumatic stress cycle. And I think we all doubt homeopathy until we're at the very end.
Mhm.
Because I was doubting homeopathy and even in that towards the very end. And so I think we're all slow to come to it.
It
Yeah.
just occurs to me that perhaps a mom who's hearing this, or any parent who is the one who is doing the bulk of the medical care and like the day-to-day care or whatever, or the one who's managing the homeopathic visits, that it I can't imagine how, again, lonely of a place it could be if you are having your own doubts or your own like questions, but you can't take those doubts or questions to your bigger doubting or questioning spouse, because then you know that they're going to be a like hard, we're done then. If you don't think this is working, I don't think it's working, we're done. And then you're like, and then what else, right? So I just want to acknowledge that that was probably a pretty lonely place for you, Jody, to like have your questions and not really have anybody you could talk to about them. Because if you were doubting, then what else?
Yeah, it was a hard spot for me. It was
Yeah.
a very um that's why I was really grateful when he did finally come around and we could we could communicate a little bit more about it. But yeah, it was a really hard space.
Yeah.
And I don't think saying, I think I was relying on doctors and experts to give me the answer for my daughter, while Jody was trying to learn and research. And I kind of was, I don't say I was dismissing her, because I'm trying to give a different word, but I was kind of dismissing some of her stuff because she wasn't a doctor.
Right.
And then she was just a hard charging mom, and you don't mess with them, right? I mean, like, she dove in, she knew her kid better than anybody else. But it's almost like it wasn't enough for me coming from her.
Hmm.
I needed it from a doctor, and I just wasn't getting it from a doctor.
Right.
So once I realized, man, this woman's staying up all hours of the night doing her own research, whether it be for Avery stuff, whether it be for Gwen's Marcel stuff. I mean, she's up. I mean, she's getting after it. Then I mean, I think that also helped uh, me get to a better place too.
Yeah.
Once I started trusting her maybe more. Um, I know it sounds really bad, but just trying to be honest.
No, and I appreciate that, because my next question is actually how your marriage was impacted once things started to improve with homeopathy. Did it have any role in like any shifts in your marriage?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think initially divided us for sure.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, literally divided us. We were living like in kind of separate places for a little while, same area, just Anyhow, long story, but that part was really hard. Um, but I think getting to a place where we had some more stability with Avery felt like I don't know, it just felt safer. I think it got better for sure. I mean, not saying it could always be worse, but it got much better with as Avery healed.
Hmm.
Um, and then I don't know. Of course, I've tried to do some of my own healing through some of this. I think even some of my journey with homeopathy has made that our relationship and marriage way better than it was when we first got married.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe you can disagree. It's okay. But I think it's a lot better just as we've gone through this. It sucks to go through, I don't wish it on anybody. I really don't. It's horrible. When I listen to your podcast, I love hearing the stories about the success stories from some of these people because but listening to what they went through, I was like, it puts you back in a really dark, bad place.
Yeah.
But getting through this, getting through that, I think it's made us a lot, help our marriage. Um, I know Jody don't like this word sometimes, but I have a whole newfound respect for her. Just going through this, what she did and how she handled it. And yeah, we've been through a lot together. That's strengthened our marriage for sure.
I think one of the thank you. I think one of the I think it did a lot for our marriage, but the first thing it did was help us individually. Because as your kids get better and there's less time managing, there's less time figuring out, like literally, for me, I was able to hand it off to you. And at one point I did that. I was like, no more. I'm like, you tell me what to do, and I'm just going to show up and report symptoms. And that's how we're going to do it. And I think at one point my big medical binder, I completely put it away and I stopped researching. I pulled out of some of the Facebook groups I was in, and that gave me the ability to start figuring out who I was after PANS. And I think the same thing for Billy. Like when we had more time, it was like a rediscovering of ourselves, of who we were after all of this devastation, and really just like removing the absolutely traumatic thing that was happening in our home every single day and replacing it with joy and laughing kids and kids that could finally play with each other. Like, oh, like if that doesn't refill your soul, and just it's like homeopathy rebuilt everything in our lives. Um, Anyways, I'm like completely rambling. I don't even remember what the question. Oh, it was the marriage question. It's just like it's wild when all of that stuff started going away. And then whenever it was finally away, we just had the time to even spend with each other and start to care for each other again, and in a way that we couldn't, because all of our caring was like drained completely dry for our kids. It was just the time and the space to be in a marriage again. Billy, looking back on the whole experience, what would you have done differently?
Knowing now or knowing then what I know now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm definitely more open-minded. I've learned a lot. I don't want to say I had straight tunnel vision on things. It's opened my mind to different things. Um, if this was to be, if this would have happened now with what I've had and what I know, and you suggested homeopathy first, I would have been like, okay, like there would be no fight for me. There would be no arguing for me. It would be like, all right, just because it's hard for me to explain to people. It's hard for me to talk to people. I only know what I know and what I saw and what it did for our family. So, and so if you were to tell me what would I do different, I wouldn't have pushed it back over and over and over and over and over. And I would have gone, if you'd suggested, I would have gone straight to that route, knowing there's going to be ups and downs, uh, but I would be able to handle and manage those ups and downs better
Mhm.
because I have an idea of what to expect. I just did not know what to expect, and that's tough too when you don't know what you're doing, what's going to happen, and we just that's hard. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't fight you on it, or if that's what you wanted to do, I'd be like, all right, let's do it. You know,
Is there anything not related to homeopathy or treatments that you would do differently?
my approach, I think, on how I reacted sometimes to things and how I responded sometimes to things would be different for sure. Um, I'm definitely not the person I am now. Now that back then that I am now, as far as I would be, I got to give way more grace, I think, and have way much more understanding
Mhm.
for her. I would, uh, probably definitely love on her more. Um, yeah, I think I would handle my parenting a lot differently. I think I would handle my relationship with Jody a lot differently through this, and it's funny because coming from a background of sports my whole life, it's like, what do they say? Team, 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 team. And then you get in the fire department, it's like comms, 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 military, communications, communications. And those are two things that I kind of just completely pushed aside, I think, back then. Our communication was not good. We weren't working as a team at all. So those are two things I definitely would change. That way we're on the same page and, managing this together as a family instead of just two individuals.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think we all would parent differently if we truly understood from the very beginning that this was all inflammation driven. Like there's so many times that I look back in like how I was getting Avery into school or how I was handling rage episodes or something. And I'm like, absolutely none of that was Avery. None of it. And obviously you have to still continue to teach your children and keep everyone safe. But I think all of us looking back would have shed a little bit of the disciplinary aspect of it. And because it is like now we see like there's no part of that left in Avery. That wasn't Avery. That was swelling in her brain that was causing every single bit of it.
Well, the one thing neither of you said that I would offer to both of you that I would hope that you would do differently is give yourselves a little bit more grace. If you both were ready to offer it to everybody else, but you deserve it too. And like the ability to, I would offer you the ability to recognize your emotions and come to peace with the fact that you're having some strong emotions, that you don't have to get to that place of like fear that leads to anger and sadness and sorrow that finally allows you to have some sort of release. Like, because there's a whole lot of feelings that happen before you got to those places that probably didn't get paid attention to, because that's what parents do, right? We set aside our feelings and we focus on what's going on with our kids, but we also deserve to tend to our own feelings just like they do as humans.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
Yeah.
a learning process for us. I think we're the generation of keeping our feelings to ourselves.
Yeah.
And we're learning through our kids that all of these feelings and emotions are okay and they're meant to be felt. And um, walling them off isn't necessarily
Yeah.
the healthiest thing to do. So I think we're both still work in progress there and
Yeah.
learning
You
to.
just gave away how old we are a little bit, Jody. Like you just gave
I
a little
know.
bit of a hint about how old we are and what generation we're all part of. Um, all right. So Billy, you've mentioned that you have had your own experience with homeopathy. So I'm curious if you're willing to talk to us about that, like how you feel about your own healing journey and whether or not you'd encourage other dads to do homeopathy too.
That took me a while to get to that point too.
Mhm.
But I think helping with past traumas and help going through what with Avery, her stuff, it's definitely helped me, and I think Jody can attest to that too, and you can probably speak on that too. But it has helped me. It has helped me. We life doesn't, just because Avery's better and she's good doesn't mean life's easy. We've gone through a lot of other stuff in life, and I think with homeopathy, I've been able to move through those crappy situations and circumstances much better
Mhm.
instead of just sitting in on them and not moving past them. I think it's helped me with that. Um, I think it's helped me connect with my girls in a way that I probably wouldn't have been able to before.
Mhm.
So, and as far as recommending it, you know, I'm, I think that's an individual thing. I hate, and I'm not telling people what to do, but I think people get to where they get on their own. And I think if, like, it took me getting rock bottom to do homeopathy for Avery, it took me wanting to make sure my relationships with my kids were the best and I was the best version of me that I could be to do homeopathy. And, my line, some people's lines go this way to get A to B. Mine kind of went, I eventually got there. It just took me a while. But I would just, for somebody who's thinking about it, I was, I would encourage it if it's an option for them, if they're willing to do it. Just because I know it's helped me, and I know I watched what it did to Avery. So yeah, like I said, I don't never tell people what to do. I think people have to find their own, path and what works for them. Maybe that's me being stubborn. Because if like you said, if I would have listened earlier, I wouldn't have had to do all these turns to get to this point. I would have just gone straight there, but I didn't. And I think sometimes though that makes you who you are. And I think some of the stuff we've dealt with and gone through and has definitely changed who I am for the better. I don't want to go through them again. I'm not going to lie. I don't want to do it again. But it's given me a whole different perspective on life, on health, just everything in general. So yeah.
You know what I'm thinking about? I tricked you into doing homeopathy. I don't even think I've ever told you this. Because I was trying to get you to do it forever. Like forever and ever, I was trying to get you to do it because I knew it would help you. I knew that there was a post-traumatic stress component of it, but you wouldn't and you wouldn't and you wouldn't. And finally, I convinced you because I was like, it's going to help with your breathing and your sleep stuff. And I think at that point you were like super struggling, and like every time it would happen, I'd be like, you can do homeopathy for this. It'll help. I not knowing whether or not it would help, which hallelujah, it has helped. But no, I just tricked you into it. So
thanks, I guess.
No. But
yeah, no.
I think that homeopathy has unlocked something that was a side of you that you had lost through many things that have happened in life. There was a part of you that was there, and it has allowed you to just relax and enjoy. And I just like I don't even have words for how much it's changed you, especially as a father, as a husband. It's night and day. Like thinking about like I don't even know who the you before and during PANS was, because you're so like you're still yourself. You're still your type A, which is hard for me to handle because I'm exactly opposite. You're still all of those things, but also too you are relaxed and you enjoy life, and you're connected to your girls in a way that you weren't. And I feel like homeopathy helped you get there, and your willingness to do homeopathy and do all of those things. So I could talk for an hour about what I think homeopathy has done for Billy.
Yeah, it definitely has relaxed me for sure. I
Yeah.
always felt like I was always on the go. Felt like I had to be doing something. Uh, didn't really had a hard time just kind of enjoying the moment. Now days would go by and I'm like, oh, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have enjoyed it more. But in that moment, I was always go, go, go. I can't be sitting there. I got to be doing something. I got to be cleaning. I got to be exercising. I got to be doing yard work. Go, 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 go. And I just never, I wouldn't, everything had to be scheduled. And if something got thrown in that schedule that wasn't in my schedule or thrown in the mix, it would like piss me off, because it wasn't what I had planned. You know what I mean? So, well, you probably already know some of this. I know Jody knows it, but it has helped me
Oh,
with
I
that
know,
for
because I
sure.
remember the text message that I got with you. She was like, she told me about you just relaxing by the pool, and that you
Yeah,
had never done that in all the years since you got the pool. You had never just sat down and relaxed by the pool. And she was just like, it's working. And that's all she
I
said. It was
sat down, had a beer, and it was great.
yeah.
Instead of cleaning it, doing
Yeah.
chemicals,
Mhm.
yeah, which is usually what I'm worried about.
Mhm.
So yeah, no, that was actually it's funny you say because that was actually for me a big a big moment because that's not me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is true. Yeah.
I think we all, both of us disassociated a lot
Yeah.
and like pulled back from it and were busy in other things to have some relief in what we were in the middle of. And homeopathy has definitely helped both of us reassociate. Is that a word? No, I don't know what it is, but like fully check
Probably not.
in. And it's been so neat to watch that with you, Billy, and the girls because it's different. Y'all's relationship is very different now, and there's just a level of connectedness that had homeopathy not come into our lives, I don't know that would have ever been accomplished. And that's like one of the greatest gifts.
Yeah, I mean, it's made me feel better as a person because there's some stuff like you feel a certain way. Like I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be uptight. I don't want to be stressed. I just want to be in the moment. I
Mhm.
don't want to worry about this or that. So that has helped me be more present and be more in. I think it's helped me be more in the moment because I'm not so stressed all the time.
Yeah.
And there's still stress in my life, but I don't constantly carry it.
Yeah.
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 Do you think that doing homeopathy early in your life would have helped when PANS showed up in Avery's world or our world?
I'm going to say yes because we haven't had anything as devastating as that, but we've had some stuff and I was able to move through that stuff way better. And I think we did it together. So I can't help but think that it only would have done that if I had been doing it through the whole PANS journey, especially the beginning of it. Um, so yeah, I think it would definitely have helped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jody, you just mentioned gifts, and so I'm curious for both of you, what other gifts or like what are the primary gifts that you would say homeopathy has given to your family?
Do you want me to answer this one, Joe,
I
or
want
let me
both of you
start?
to answer.
Go ahead. I'll
So
clean up.
I guess, yeah, I guess for me, I don't know. I think it's allowed us to be a family again. I don't know. It just kind of has freed us from stuff and it's allowed us to be uh, together in a family. I think it's definitely given me confidence that if not only in maybe in our kids' futures, but just their health, and that if something happens, it's not like, oh man, what are we gonna do? It's like I feel like okay, we got this. We'll figure it out. So I think it's helped me through that avenue. Um, I don't know. Those are the first. Those are a couple things that just popped in my head,
Those are
came to
big.
mind.
The gift of
You
family
know,
and the gift of confidence.
um,
Yeah.
because in the past, if I saw a regression or something happen, it'd be like I get to pit my stomach, like here we go again. Like I can't. I'm not ready for. I mean, here we go again. Now it's more like, which she doesn't have them,
Hmm.
but just not with pans so much. But what I'm talking about is just in life.
Hmm.
Now, if something, something happens, it's not like, I can still not like something, but it just doesn't sit here in my
Hmm.
stomach like it did when she was going through her process of
Hmm.
the ups and downs. Um, yeah, so I mean, I think it's given us more, I don't know, hope and less stress. Also,
Yeah.
yeah,
I could talk about
we'll
this
go
for
clean that up, clean all my stuff up.
I could talk about this for an entire episode. I won't. I think the one of the greatest things is that and anybody that's listening that doesn't know about our family, we had Avery that had PANS, and my younger daughter, Gwen, had really, really extreme mast cell disease. So we were buried, like completely buried. And homeopathy slowly dug us up and gave us light, gave us water, gave us oxygen. It gave us life. That's what it feels like to me. I every single day used to be worried about what both girls' futures looked like. I, I don't worry about that anymore. Like I worry about like normal things a mom would look like. I don't worry about this child's never going to be able to leave my home. This child is always going to need management. This like they're not going to be able to do this on their own. They're going to be able to do it on their own. They're fine. They're good. They're better versions of themselves than before homeopathy. They're still the same little great humans, especially Avery. Avery's still quirky as all get out. She is so much like Billy, in all like wonderful, wonderful ways. But she's healthy and she's whole. And every single day I'm shocked that that happened. Like it's, I think that it's given us a lot, a whole
Yeah.
lot. We understand now that, um, there, there was a whole lot of pain, and w- we've been able to find, like, it all makes sense now.
Yeah.
Like every single piece of that we went through, it all makes sense. It was for a reason. There was a greater purpose. We have learned so much. Homeopathy's taught us about ourselves, the world. Every single moment we just sit in a different grateful place. Like we're so grateful for all these little things that happen. Like Gwen being able to play volleyball. What?
Yeah.
Like Gwen being able to go to school. What? Avery being, like all of the things that she's doing. Like all of it is so amazing. It's just a different level of gratefulness
Yeah.
and appreciation and gratitude for just life.
Yeah.
So,
That's wonderful.
Billy, what advice would you give parents, particularly fathers?
You know, Masters, these are some hard questions. Like I'm like racking my brain. Uh, I don't know. Maybe some of the stuff I touched on earlier. I guess advice would be just keep an open mind. Be open minded with things. Work as a team and in communication. I think that'll make things way way less stressful in an already really stressful situation. So, like I said, to me, just work as a team, comms, and then you know, just being open minded to what's out there other than just what you know. And sometimes for me, going to a place of unknown was scary, and so I get it. Like I people ask me, "What do you think about this?" With that, I'm like, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm going to tell you what we did, how it went, and what worked for us, or what worked for me. But you have to make your own decisions and your own choices. And when you're to that spot, you're to that spot, and you know you're at that spot. It took me a long time to get there. Some people get there quicker, but don't give up. Because it's hard. Yeah, keep working with your partner. That's what all I can say. I mean, there's so much to it, but to me, in a nutshell, those are what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just have to say, like, reflecting on the first time we had a conversation together in our Facebook group, I can see the difference in the two of you in your own healing journey, in how you communicate, how you talk about things, like reflecting back. Um, and just, I mean, I obviously have like an inside view to all of those things too, but just even in this conversation, I can just see um, how far you've both come in this process. And I'm so grateful that you're both here and willing to show up. Obviously, Jody, you became a guest accidentally on this podcast. You had like dual roles today, but I'm so grateful that you were both willing to stick around for the PANDAS community. Jody, for your continual sharing and support, and Billy, for your willingness to come here again in a place of vulnerability, which I know is not your favorite thing.
Yeah.
I'm
Correct.
but like that, so that itself is like a huge gift that you're willing to give to other PANS parents. It's not just dads who are going to connect with what you've experienced. There's going to be lots of moms who also connect with parts of your story. It's not we have lots of different ways that we relate to the world that gender does not dictate, right? And so um yeah, I'm so grateful for both of you and your willingness to share. And I'm so glad that we actually have this as our, as I said at the beginning, our penultimate episode to leave people on for season 2, because I think what you guys shared today is really important for a lot of people to hear, especially when they're in the earlier side of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, we should do a follow-up and have like a dad question episode, or even mom questions for
Yep.
a dad.
Yeah,
All
these
right.
are tough. No, these are always hard for me. They're tough,
Yeah.
but
Well,
I
so
don't
if we
know.
asked you nicely, would you come back and answer questions from dads or questions for dads from moms for a future episode in our next season?
I'll do whatever I can to help, and I'll do the best I can. I mean, what you guys are doing, and is huge. It's with work. There's so much out there in the mental health, whether it's diagnosis this or that, and sometimes when I see it, I can't help but in my mind go back to, is this just PANS? Not just with PANS, but is this PANS with this child or with this adult or with this person?
Yeah.
And not what they're diagnosed. So it's always in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
Something that most people never heard of.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping in my short time, and I know there's a lot of things I probably omitted and not on purpose, that somebody could take something from this talk.
Yeah.
And that's beneficial to them. That's my hope. That's my only hope.
All right. So we got it. We got it on record here that Billy will come back and he will answer questions from dads or questions from moms for dads. So we'll get that scheduled. It'll be in season 2. So you guys are gonna have to wait for it for a little bit. But we will get Billy back to answer your specific questions. Thank you so much, Billy, for
thank you, Doc.
willingness to join us, and your willingness to come back, even though we 100% put you on the spot, but
All right. Okay.
All right. So we'll see you guys next week for our last episode of the season. We'll have some great episodes for replays for those of you who just don't want to go a week without hearing from us. And then we'll get this guy back for season 3. So take care, everybody.
All right, thank you.
We hope you found this episode helpful, hopeful, and inspiring. We try to get a new episode out every week. You can make sure you don't miss any by following us on Spotify or subscribing to our channel on YouTube. If you want to connect with us more, join our Facebook group, Homeopathy for Pans and Pandas, where we have exclusive weekly videos and answer your questions about, you guessed it, homeopathy for Pans and Pandas throughout the week. If you are already a member, give us a shout out and let us know what you thought about this episode. If you aren't on Facebook and would like to reach us, you can email us at podcast@resiliencenaturopathic.com. Until next time, take care and remember, this won't be forever.